My husband is a feared tyrant.
A blond man with a bloody knife approaches a woman with light purple hair as a small purple-haired girl warns her that he's come to take her head.
The woman with light purple hair realizes she is destined to be killed by her husband. Overwhelmed by her fate, she cries. The blond man gently cups her tear-stained face, looking down at her. He leans in to check her temperature, announcing she doesn't have a fever as she looks on in confusion. A young blonde child, held by the woman with light purple hair, worriedly asks if her mother-in-law is unwell.
The blond man holds her hand tenderly, promising to take good care of her.
In a tender moment, the man and woman embrace while holding their young child. The scene shifts to a grand, illuminated mansion at night.
Inside, the blond man sits on a throne, surrounded by admiring women. A woman with black hair holding a violin introduces herself to Emperor Nathan, offering her family's heirloom as a gift of goodwill, but he remains unimpressed.
A brown-haired woman encourages the violinist to play her proud melody. As she begins to play, Emperor Nathan interrupts, declaring he will sing instead while seething with displeasure. The women, terrified, immediately kneel and apologize to the emperor on his throne. A woman identified as former Empress Adelaide glances back, asking if His Majesty was not pleased. Former Empress Adelaide presents a woman with reddish-brown hair, hoping the emperor will like her, while the woman explains her jeweler father sent a newly finished gift. Emperor Nathan's gaze intensifies. The reddish-brown-haired woman notices another lady standing alone near the dessert table. A woman with light purple hair recognizes the emperor's murderous eyes and fears he will truly kill her. She steels her resolve, remembering she was given a second chance at life. She laments how cruel it is to face a bad end so soon. A flashback reveals a brown-haired woman, a successful, charismatic stylist for celebrities, reflecting on her former life. She recalls her life seemed fulfilling and successful to everyone around her.
But behind the scenes, she was ignored by clients and harassed by men.
In reality, she was exhausted and grew deeply distrustful of people. Her only comfort was a webcomic about a tyrant named Nathan finding true love. The idea of a tyrant's unconditional love soothed her weary heart as she fell asleep reading. Walking home late, she eagerly anticipates reading the newest chapter of her favorite story. Ugh, a sudden pain and blinding lights overwhelm her in the street. She awoke to find herself reincarnated as one of Nathan's wives on their wedding night.
Worse, she has become Arianel, the character fated to die immediately after appealing to Nathan at this very party.
Arianel resolves to defy her fate by doing nothing and avoiding Nathan completely.
She dreams of a peaceful life as a background character, happily observing her favorites from afar. But finding the party a beautiful waste, she decides standing around is too boring. Deciding to get some food, she spots Princess Crystal by the dessert table. The young princess with blonde hair and a crown gazes up at the treats. Arianel remembers the story described Princess Crystal being treated poorly and is shocked to see her without even a maid. Arianel watches the lonely princess with a look of deep concern. Princess Crystal beams with joy as she holds a small piece of cake. "Gah!" The princess cries out as a woman bumps into her, knocking the cake from her hands, and Arianel is appalled that the woman didn't even apologize. Arianel's eyes well up with tears as she watches the sad scene. She wonders why no one is helping the princess, flashing back to a memory of drowning alone. Arianel's gaze lands on the woman who bumped into the princess, a new resolve in her eyes. She approaches the woman with brown hair, asking to be excused for a moment.
The woman turns annoyed and curtly asks what she wants.
Arianel points out the woman's misplaced hair ornament and offers to fix it, but the woman angrily swats her hand away with a loud tap, tap, tap. The woman's elaborate brown wig tumbles to the polished floor.
Arianel freezes in absolute wide-eyed panic.
The now green-haired woman flushes with embarrassment as guests mock her failed dye job.
As the woman snatches her wig back, Arianel realizes her simple attempt to help has gone horribly wrong.
Arianel watches Princess Crystal, noticing the girl hasn't touched her cake.
A hand sets a plate with 2 small cakes before the lonely princess.
Princess Crystal looks up, her eyes widening at the unexpected dessert. She happily takes a chocolate cupcake, her face filled with delight.
Wah! Arianel smiles warmly as the princess exclaims how delicious the treat is. Looking closer, Arianel's stylist instincts kick in, criticizing how the princess's charm is being wasted.
She mentally critiques the young girl's ill-suiting dress color.
Annoyed, Arianel blames the maids for slacking on their duties. An idea strikes her. Perhaps she should become one of the princess's maids. Tap, tap. A firm hand on her shoulder makes Arianel freeze in surprise. Nearby guests gasp, shocked by the sudden turn of events.
Arianel looks back nervously, wondering if the Emperor was addressing her.
She glances around the room, her expression filled with uncertainty.
With dawning realization, she understands he was indeed talking to her. Flustered, she quickly curtsies, offering a formal greeting to the Emperor. Emperor Nathan gazes down at her with a quiet, unreadable expression.
Arianel waits in tense silence, her face showing her mounting anxiety.
As the silence stretches, she internally begs for him to say something.
A flashback reveals she has no understanding of noble etiquette, causing her to panic in the present.
She laments that Arianel's own memories are hazy, leaving her unable to manage a proper greeting.
Chancellor Raymond notes the Emperor's intense gaze, commenting that he's taken a liking to the lady. The Chancellor approaches Arianel, asking who she is.
An aide whispers that she is the 9th princess of the Kingdom of Silva, a name that confuses Arianel. The Chancellor recalls Silva as the northern country known for magic stones, which his aide confirms. Former Empress Adelaide interrupts, noting that all the fuss must be distracting. Adelaide suggests the Emperor and Arianel spend time alone to get acquainted. The Chancellor protests that her suggestion is too forward, but Adelaide insists it's for an engagement meeting. While Adelaide argues it's natural for them to talk, the Chancellor silently scoffs at the idea of marrying a girl from a weak nation. Adelaide privately considers Arianel a worthless but convenient choice compared to a powerful local noblewoman. An official reflects on the tempting value of Silva's magic stones. While scales weigh the valuable stones, Adelaide schemes that marrying Arianel as a concubine is a low-risk strategy. Arianel stands alone, surrounded by thorny roses and judging eyes. Emperor Nathan watches the scene unfold with a cool, calculating gaze. Feeling the hostile stares, Arianel realizes she must escape the situation. She tries to excuse herself, claiming she doesn't feel well. Her escape is blocked by 2 women who suddenly appear before her. A red-haired woman named Arya and a brown-haired woman grab her arms, saying they've been looking for Arianel. Overwhelmed, Arianel panics, unable to recognize their faces or names. The women take over, telling the Emperor that the socially awkward girl needs them to answer his questions, silencing Arianel's attempt to speak.
The brown-haired woman whispers menacingly to Arianel, asking if she's okay and suggesting she needs more education.
The threat triggers a painful memory, causing Arianel to cry out in her mind.
Kia, in a flashback, a red-haired woman shoves a younger Arianel down, warning her not to talk back and threatening to teach her a lesson for disobeying her older sister.
The bullies in her memory order her to shut up and be useful as she looks up from the floor, terrified. Returning to the present, Arianel realizes she's witnessing the original Arianel's heartbreaking past.
Her thoughts turn to Princess Crystal, and she worries that the young girl is still all alone.
A vision appears of an older, regal woman in blue standing protectively beside Princess Crystal. The image of the lonely princess solidifies her resolve. She cannot leave her be. Feeling trapped by the two women, whose faces are now shadowed, Arianel prepares to act. With newfound courage, she shoves the brown-haired woman's hand away, shouting the red-haired woman's name, Arya. She successfully breaks free from their grasp. Suddenly, Emperor Nathan pulls her into his protective embrace, leaving her utterly shocked. The Emperor holds Arianel close as a murmur ripples through the crowd. Former Empress Adelaide gasps in surprise, exclaiming His Majesty's name. With a sharp glare, Emperor Nathan commands complete silence. He issues a chilling threat, declaring he only spoke to Arianel and will silence anyone else who dares to speak. Held in his arms, Arianel nervously concludes it's best if she stays silent, too.
She internally panics as the Emperor continues to hold her in the tense silence.
Her worried thoughts drift to images of the adorable Princess Crystal.
Emperor Nathan turns his head and calmly summons his chancellor.
The scene shifts from the grand moonlit castle to a private room where he and Arianel are now alone. Sitting by herself, Arianel tries to process the unbelievable situation. She's struck by the horrifying realization that she's married and now fears he's about to kill her.
Instead, he gently tells her she looks tired and should rest well.
She watches in confusion as he turns to leave, wondering why he's not doing anything to her. As she silently wonders why she was spared, he stands at the door, internally admitting that's what he wants to ask too.
He reflects that even though he can hear her thoughts perfectly, they make absolutely no sense.
The question of her true identity hangs in the air.
The story flashes back 2 years to a scene in the throne room.
A caption introduces the long-haired ruler as the former emperor, Xavi. Two nobles praise young Prince Nathan's genius, noting his results with sword and book are beyond all expectations. Emperor Xavi proudly reflects that with such a brilliant son, the kingdom's future and his own is secure. Young Nathan reveals that since birth, he has possessed the kingly power to read minds. His thoughts continue from off-panel.
A caption identifies him as Nathan, age 7, already surrounded by the thorny burdens of his station.
The assembled nobles in the throne room remain silent. More courtiers watch on with anxious, unsettled expressions.
In the present, Emperor Nathan finds all debates pointless, while his chancellor worries about his uncooperative nature and plots to find him a proper aide.
A young, brown-haired noble resentfully thinks the emperor's arrogance won't last forever.
Wham! Emperor Nathan suddenly issues swift decrees, stunning both the resentful noble and the chancellor.
He dismisses the foreign and finance ministers, who desperately protest their years of sincere service.
With cold authority, the emperor silences them and orders them to get out. As the two men are dragged away, they scream curses at the silent tyrant, warning that divine punishment will befall him. Tuning out their cries, Nathan declares the Aubrey family is suspected of treason and orders a full investigation into their entire clan. His ruthless decision leaves the remaining nobles utterly shocked.
Commander of the Knights, Carlos Carmine, accepts the emperor's orders.
The commander turns and walks away to carry out his duty. Nathan reflects on his governing philosophy, nipping all conflict in the bud before any disputes can arise. Thanks to his perfect governance, the nation is peaceful and prosperous, leaving only one problem remaining.
The chancellor steps forward to address His Majesty.
He asks the emperor to confirm the banquet's attendee list, specifically mentioning the pressing matter of an heir.
The scene transitions to a grand hall filled with nobles for the evening banquet.
A brown-haired woman greets Emperor Nathan while internally recoiling at the terrifying prospect of marrying a tyrant for her family's sake. She presents her family's heirloom as a gift to him.
A woman in blue, holding a violin, hopes the tyrant will take a liking to her.
Emperor Nathan thinks all the women are unbearably noisy, wishing for someone who won't get in his way.
His gaze suddenly shifts, his attention caught by something across the room. His eyes land on Arianel, standing quietly by herself.
Emperor Nathan asks who she is, and an aide identifies her as Princess Arianel, a strong candidate for Empress.
The Chancellor is comically shocked that the Emperor not only spoke, but asked about a woman. The Emperor silently mulls over the phrase, a strong candidate for Empress. He watches her peek from behind a pillar, thinking to himself how cute she is. He watches her from afar, thinking she resembles a stalker. He notes with suspicion that she hasn't said a single word to him. The Chancellor is stunned by the Emperor's unprecedented interest in a single woman.
He reflects that the Emperor showing interest in Arianel de Silva is unheard of.
The Chancellor concludes that Arianel must not be underestimated. Emperor Nathan grows frustrated, realizing he cannot understand her thoughts. He strides purposefully across the hall toward where Arianel is hiding. She watches in wide-eyed surprise as the Emperor approaches her directly.
He stops before her, sternly demanding a moment of her time.
The surrounding guests gasp, shocked that the Emperor approached a woman on his own. He realizes bringing her to a private room has only deepened the mental silence. He's baffled that she shows no ambition for power, money, or himself. Seeing how flustered she is, he concludes he'll get no more information tonight. An awkward, heavy silence hangs between them in the private room. He tells her to get some rest and turns to leave the room.
As he walks away, he ponders the mystery of who she truly is.
He walks down the hall, vowing to uncover her true intentions. Alone on the bed, Arianel wonders in disbelief if she actually survived. Wow! She breaks down into tears of overwhelming relief. Realizing she's not safe yet, she desperately tries to figure out how to get a divorce. She concentrates hard, trying to formulate a plan for her escape. Exhausted, she gives up for the night and decides to just try and sleep. Her eyes snap open, realizing she can't sleep while fearing for her life.
The Emperor suddenly returns, startling a maid standing by the door.
He asks if she knows about a stolen kitchen knife, which she denies.
Still suspicious, he orders a search of the room and her person.
Refusing to be falsely accused, she resolutely offers to be searched to prove her innocence. He stops her, saying a search is unnecessary, and tells her to get dressed. As she wonders if he believes her, he suddenly orders her to sleep in his room tonight. She stares back in absolute shock, questioning his outrageous command. Flustered, she quickly stammers out her reluctant agreement. He turns and leads the way out of the room, Arianel following behind. As she follows, she worries about her safety but realizes his presence might offer protection. Her thoughts are cut short when she spots Princess Crystal standing outside the window. Seeing the knife in the princess's hand, she resolves to disarm her and find out what's wrong. She panics, realizing she's too far away to stop the princess in time. He places a hand on her back, calmly assuring her the distance isn't an issue. He suddenly grabs Arianel and leaps directly out of the high window with her. In his arms, she looks up at him, completely stunned by his drastic action. He coldly warns her to keep her mouth shut, to avoid biting her tongue. They fall through the air, Arianel still shocked by their sudden leap. He lands perfectly, leaving her amazed at how effortlessly he made the jump. Filled with hope, she realizes his incredible speed means they can save Crystal. The intense speed makes her dizzy as they race towards the lone girl. They arrive to find Princess Crystal standing frozen, clutching the stolen knife. The terrified princess warns them to stay back as Arianel realizes she's been spotted. With a determined glare, Nathan moves in a blur to handle the situation.
Arianel finds herself frozen in place, watching in terror as Princess Crystal prepares to act.
No, she cries out in her mind as a swift, blurred motion cuts through the air.
Overwhelmed with regret, she believes her attempt to change the future has led to disaster.
Feeling the princess's turmoil, Arianel tears up. She laments always failing when it comes to people.
Just in time, the Emperor disarms the fallen princess.
Arianel hesitates, wanting to ask the girl something.
She watches as the young princess cries. He scoffs at her foolish desire to be a boy, startling her.
He believes she now understands the gravity of her actions.
She gently apologizes and asks to see the princess's hand.
Interrupting the Emperor, she asks him to be silent for a moment.
His piercing red eyes widen in surprise. The young princess reveals her slightly reddened hands.
Arianel realizes her own fault in the girl's desperation.
The princess looks up as the Emperor watches silently. He states that simply understanding isn't enough. He questions whether they can trust a child's words.
The young princess looks on with wide, vulnerable eyes.
She quietly considers the Emperor's harsh assessment.
Determined, Arianel takes the young princess's hand.
She declares she will cut the princess's hair herself.
He calls her ridiculous, but she insists she is serious.
Arianel flashes a completely confident smile.
She unties her robe, preparing for the task. Promising to create any hairstyle, she asks what the princess would like.
Arianel asks warmly if the girl can trust her.
The princess tearfully confesses she tried and failed to become a boy.
She shyly admits she actually likes cute things.
Arianel offers to give her a cute hairstyle for a ribbon.
With a glimmer of hope, the princess quietly agrees.
The tools for a haircut are laid out.
An aide suggests the Emperor is free to rest now.
He refuses to leave them alone while blades are present.
Impatiently, he tells the aide to stop chattering and work. Now dressed as a maid, Arianel nervously apologizes. She finds it difficult working under his intense gaze.
He watches her silently from behind as she works. As he asks if she's done, she explains she's adding the finishing touches. Beaming, she proudly announces that she is all done. A brilliant light surrounds the princess's new look.
Both Arianel and the Emperor gaze at the stunning result. A close-up shows the princess's short, stylish hair and blushing cheek.
Ariel gushes that the new hairstyle is the absolute cutest.
The Emperor, however, remains silent and stern.
The princess looks down, disappointed by his silence.
Ariel realizes she may have gotten carried away.
She prods the Emperor for his opinion, privately thinking it's hopeless.
The dejected princess waits sadly for a reaction.
Eek! He suddenly leans down, startling Arianel.
He places his hands on Crystal's shoulders, asking if she can hear him talk.
Wow, the princess marvels at her beautiful short hair in a magical reflection.
Arianel smiles, blushing with genuine happiness at her success. Ariel reassures a tearful Princess Crystal that she is cute. A single tear forms in the young princess's eye. Overjoyed, the princess flashes a brilliant smile and thanks her.
Arianel feels a deep sense of joy seeing her client so happy.
She then recalls the Emperor's odd words about the haircut. A memory surfaces of the princess crying about wanting to be a boy. She turns her attention back toward the Emperor. He sternly tells a satisfied Princess Crystal to go to sleep.
The princess nervously tries to bring up the events of the day. He cuts her off, coldly asking if she wants punishment.
Startled, she quickly bids him good night and scurries away.
Arianel watches the tense exchange with a nervous expression.
He turns to Arianel, asking to speak with his consort before she sleeps.
She panics internally, realizing her actions have made a terrible impression.
Defeated, she feels like she is digging her own grave.
Wah! Her life flashes before her eyes as she imagines the worst.
As they stand near each other, he senses a strange, unfamiliar feeling from her.
Her eyes widen slightly as a startling realization begins to form.
An aide opens the doors to a private chamber for them. She follows him inside with a look of deep apprehension.
Alone with him, she wonders if Nathan can read minds.
A brief explanation reveals magic is performed through spirit contracts.
She's shocked, recalling that in the original story he had no such power.
He glares, asking why she isn't answering as a blade is swiftly drawn.
Ugh. He presses the cold blade to her throat, accusing her of having a death wish.
He menacingly questions her interpretation of their late-night talk.
He demands she reveal everything about the book in her thoughts.
Her worst fear is confirmed as she realizes he can read her mind.
Before she can finish her thought, he orders her to keep talking.
He suddenly looks baffled, realizing her once loud thoughts have gone completely silent.
She smirks triumphantly, announcing that she has discovered his weakness.
She blocks her thoughts by intensely focusing on Princess Crystal.
Flustered and confused, the Emperor admits he doesn't understand what's happening.
She confidently claims she can see the future, stunning him.
She explains she used her ability to change her fate and avoid execution. Though he finds her story unbelievable, he can't deny that she blocked his power. She informs him that his power is incomplete, which is why she could exploit it. She crosses her arms, feeling victorious for the first time. She presses her advantage, demanding he guarantee her and Crystal's safety. He analyzes the situation, concluding her wild story is the only logical explanation. He senses her genuine surface thought, worrying for her stepdaughter's safety. Intrigued, he suggests they seal their new arrangement with a magic contract.
He leads the way to another room to formalize their agreement.
As he writes the terms, he explains a spirit will punish any violations. He presents the contract. She will help him train his ability in exchange for their safety. He asks for objections, but she smiles, readily accepting the terms. He presses his official seal onto the document, activating a magical light. Surrounded by a brilliant aura, she smiles as the pact is sealed. Or so she thought, as she and the Emperor now sit rigidly on opposite sides of a bed. She tries to calm herself down, but panics when his arm brushes against hers. Annoyed, he asks her to sleep more quietly. The scene shifts to a desolate, snowy fortress and a dark mine. A weary miner stares intently at a cart of glowing magic stones. With a determined gaze, he begins pushing the heavy cart. A coworker grabs his arm, questioning if he plans to steal a stone. He passionately argues that one stone could provide warm meals for their families. His friend warns of execution, but holds out hope that the new consort from Solashare will help them.
Slapping his hand away, the man curses in frustration.
In a grand hall, a wealthy nobleman considers the lavish feast before him.
He angrily throws his plate, demanding pastries instead of bread. A young man questions the wisdom of holding banquets when food stores are low.
The nobleman slams the table in a rage, shocking the dinner guests.
The young man apologizes as two young women cry out for their father. The nobleman smiles smugly at the scene. The two sisters gossip about Arianel, doubting she can hold the Emperor's affection. They conspire to help Arianel if she fails to produce an heir. The older sister agrees it is her duty, and their father expresses his relief. Their father beams, pleased with his daughter's scheming. Their brother sadly worries that Arianel lacks the charm and intelligence to survive. Back in the present, he leans over her again, demanding she be quiet. He complains her thoughts are too noisy, which she comically misinterprets as a death threat. He asks why she can't block her thoughts now that she knows his weakness. Why, she panics, fearing she'll be killed for having an overactive imagination.
She internally declares that telling an otaku to stop fantasizing is impossible.
He registers yet another of her strange thoughts. He moves closer, their faces nearly touching on the bed of flowers. Blushing, she nervously asks what he is doing. As she blushes intensely, he notes that her thoughts have suddenly stopped.
He warns her that if her thoughts stop completely, her heart will fail.
He suddenly pulls her into a gentle embrace on the bed. Overwhelmed by his actions, she begins to cry. He silently wonders if his attempt to calm her was counterproductive. A quiet moment passes as he holds her. Now sitting apart, she asks if they can sleep separately as planned.
He runs a hand through his hair, considering her request.
He suddenly starts taking off his shirt, surprising her.
She watches him with a serious and apprehensive expression.
Now dressed in a black shirt, he turns his attention back to her.
His intense red eye focuses with purpose. The scene shifts to Princess Crystal, sitting alone in bed and crying. He correctly guesses her concern is for Crystal, and she quietly agrees.
Arianel insists they must understand what drove the princess to such desperation.
He dismisses her concerns as unnecessary and turns to leave.
She grabs his arm, frantically pleading that she is worried about the princess.
He reminds her of their safety contract, but argues it's safer for them not to go. She cheekily reminds him she's protected by the contract and can say whatever she wants. He explains plainly that Crystal is afraid of both of them. He warns that barging in will only frighten her more. Stating he already knows the reason, he offers to explain it to her slowly. He begins by explaining how her arrival as Empress has changed the political landscape. He questions what will happen to Crystal's standing if she gives birth to a prince. In a painful memory, a young Crystal watches her mother leave with another child. He tells Arianel to give up, claiming her pretty words are meaningless to Crystal. She recalls being a hairdresser, determined to find a way to help. She remembers the frustration of being misunderstood.
In a memory, a young girl insists her curly hair is natural, not a forbidden perm.
He sighs, thinking she's lost in another nonsensical delusion. She understands why Crystal fears her, but asks why he won't see his daughter. He dismisses the question, saying his reason has nothing to do with it. She grabs his face, passionately insisting that as Crystal's father, it has everything to do with it.
A tense, silent moment passes between them amidst a field of flowers.
He quietly admits that the princess is also afraid of him, and he doesn't know why.
She explains that any child would be terrified of a large, scary-faced man.
She asks if his own intimidating presence is why he hasn't visited her.
She takes his hand, telling him his approach is all wrong and wastes his gifts.
She brightly assures him he'll understand what's important once he sees the princess. She privately worries that she might have been too forceful with him. The emperor admits to himself that he has no idea how the princess will feel. With a gentle smile, Arianel confidently says it will be fine. He finally agrees to see Crystal, telling a grateful Arianel to let go. A vision of a beautiful, faceless woman with long blonde hair appears. Princess Crystal cries in her sleep, calling out for her mother. Gasp! She awakens suddenly, reaching for the empty space before her. Reaching out from her bed, she cries "Mother" into the empty room. She stares at her sad reflection in an ornate mirror. A maid quietly enters the room carrying a bucket of water.
Two maids enter, but stop in shock, berating the princess for her disgraceful haircut.
The maids panic, fearing repercussions now that the princess's position is already so fragile.
Deciding they can do nothing, one maid cruelly douses the princess with water.
The two maids mock the shivering princess, telling her no one can see her tears now.
Soaked and trembling, the princess clutches her dress, whispering for her mother.
Kya? Arianel suddenly appears and throws a bucket of water on the bullying maids.
Furious, Arianel berates the maids for tormenting a crying child.
The maids complain about the filthy, rotten water as an aide realizes it's from the latrines.
The aide looks on in complete shock and disgust.
The maid points accusingly at Arianel, whose boldness is met by the emperor's narrowing eyes.
The emperor now stands protectively behind a surprised Ariel.
The purple-haired maid stammers in terror, having just noticed His Majesty's arrival.
Panicked, she desperately tries to think of an excuse, fearing she'll be killed.
She decides to blame Arianel as the emperor coldly notes their self-preservation instincts.
Ariel turns to the emperor with a dazzlingly bright smile.
Ignoring the maids, she kneels before the princess and offers a gentle good morning.
From the doorway, the emperor watches the scene unfold with crossed arms.
Arianel cheerfully offers to wash the princess's hair for her.
Princess Crystal is bewildered, finding the offer to wash her hair very strange. Arianel flails nervously, trying to explain she didn't mean anything bad by her offer.
The emperor coldly concludes that conversation is useless when kindness isn't appreciated.
Her hair now clean, Arianel smiles, telling the princess she is all done. Arianel suggests the maids are busy cleaning, much to their shock.
As one maid objects, the other nervously volunteers to clean up while the emperor watches.
Arianel stands sternly with her arms crossed while a worried maid looks on.
With a radiant smile, Arianel confidently addresses the room. Princess Crystal stares at her reflection, now wearing an elegant white and blue dress.
Standing behind the princess, Ariel offers to style her hair to look longer.
Princess Crystal looks up with a hopeful smile, agreeing to the Empress's offer.
Arianel beams with delight, promising to make it perfect.
The emperor recalls the room was once filled with fear as he watches Arianel with the princess.
He remembers the waves of unpleasant emotions that once filled the air.
The maids marvel at the beautiful and intricate new hairstyle Arianel has created for the princess.
Princess Crystal touches her new braids, feeling like a different person.
As Crystal gazes at her new look, Arianel smiles proudly behind her.
The emperor looks on, taken aback, as unseen voices praise Princess Crystal's beauty.
Arianel and the emperor share a silent, loaded glance.
Princess Crystal wonders if her father will finally see her now.
The emperor softly compliments his daughter, calling her magnificent and every bit a noble princess.
Arianel happily agrees with the emperor's praise, wrapping her arm around a blushing Crystal.
The purple-haired maid is utterly shocked that the emperor actually complimented the princess.
Her brown-haired companion is equally stunned, questioning his sudden interest.
As Arianel and Crystal celebrate, the maids glare, muttering about the Empress's influence.
Suddenly, the two maids drop to their knees and offer a sincere apology to Arianel.
Arianel is surprised by their sudden and complete change of heart.
The maids deeply regret their rudeness, pledging their lives and service to her.
In a moment of clarity, Ariel realizes they fear the emperor, not her.
Annoyed, Arianel puts her hands on her hips, looking down at the groveling maids.
Arianel holds out her hand, telling them they should be apologizing to Princess Crystal, not her. Arianel tells the emperor his silence causes misunderstandings, to which he surprisingly agrees to consider her point. The two maids are thunderstruck to hear the emperor agree to consider it. Ariel motions for the maids to approach the princess and apologize properly. Arianel gently calls Princess Crystal's name, getting her attention.
She kindly tells the princess that she doesn't have to forgive them.
The emperor tells Arianel to handle things as she wishes, and announces he's leaving.
He adds that he didn't sleep because of her and is going to bed, startling the maids.
Touching her head, Arianel thinks to herself that she didn't get any sleep either.
The emperor walks away, declaring the conversation over, leaving an irritated Arianel behind. Arianel stands in disbelief as the emperor leaves her with the bowing maids.
She breaks into a slightly strained, awkward laugh.
Princess Crystal quietly looks up at the Empress.
Arianel waves goodbye, telling the princess she will be leaving now. She pauses, turning back for one last look at the princess.
Princess Crystal rushes forward, grabbing Arianel's dress to stop her from leaving.
She shyly thanks Arianel for everything she's done.
With hopeful eyes, Crystal asks if she can touch Arianel's hair again, delighting the Empress.
Overwhelmed by cuteness, Arianel dramatically collapses onto a bed. Lying in bed, her thoughts turn serious as she resolves to find a way to get divorced soon.
With her plan set, she finally drifts off to sleep.
Palace gossip spreads like wildfire about the Empress receiving the Emperor's affection and gaining control over the princess's staff. Two nuns discuss the rumors, concluding the Empress must be extraordinary to have such an influence.
As a vision of Arianel appears, someone wonders if she could be a saintess.
A dark-haired man with a cross hears the rumor and recalls a letter from the Empress's homeland. Holding a photo of Arianel, he declares they can't ignore the possibility of a saintess and orders his departure. The scene opens on a magnificent, sunlit palace.
Inside, a red-haired woman sits alone in a luxurious room.
Reading a letter, she gasps, realizing Arianel has become a saint, and clutches her chest. A young woman peeks in, asking Lady Ruby if she's heard about Arianel's reputation.
Lady Ruby sighs, scolding the woman, Maisie, for not knocking.
Maisie apologizes but quickly redirects the conversation back to Arianel. Lady Ruby scoffs, calling it arrogant that Arianel is doing so well for herself.
Maisie sneers, claiming that the clumsy girl's success is due to their education.
Lady Ruby agrees, adding that Arianel is likely under the impression she did it all herself.
Maisie insists Arianel needs regular reminders and came to her sister for advice. She then asks if Ruby has also been invited to the Empire's Holy Night Festival.
As Ruby holds the invitation, Maisie asks if this means she will be attending as well. Maisie proposes they ensure Arianel understands who she owes her good fortune to, and Lady Ruby agrees it's a good idea.
Delighted, Maisie says the details are set and she's counting on her sister's support.
Humming, Maisie departs, leaving Lady Ruby to watch her go.
Lady Ruby notes that many in the Empire dislike Arianel, concluding the enemy of her enemy is her ally.
With a confident smirk, she resolves to make good use of her new allies, and of Arianel. The scene shifts to Arianel standing before Princess Crystal and two maids.
Arianel offers a gentle smile to the nervous-looking blonde princess. She thinks to herself that Princess Crystal remains as cautious as ever.
Seeing her two maids flinch, Arianel wonders if they're bullying the princess again and considers replacing them.
Princess Crystal looks up at Arianel with wide, uncertain red eyes.
Arianel recalls that Princess Crystal's former bullies were reassigned as her attendants instead of being dismissed.
Though she was told they genuinely regretted their actions, Arianel remains doubtful.
Princess Crystal sits quietly, looking down with a sad expression.
Arianel considers calling Nathan for help, imagining a chibi version of him, complaining about being an errand boy.
A short-haired maid whispers to Arianel, suggesting the real issue might be with her. Shocked by the suggestion, Arianel exclaims, "Huh? Me?"
Her maid explains that rumors of the Emperor's affection for Arianel have spread across the entire capital.
Panicked Arianel grabs her head, realizing they haven't even shared a proper night together.
Arianel stands stiffly as a nervous Princess Crystal clings to her dress.
She has a horrifying realization. To the princess, she must now seem like the biggest enemy.
Arianel looks down at the worried princess sitting on the vanity stool.
She worries her position could be at risk if the princess discovers her marriage is a sham.
Trying to manage the situation, Arianel quickly reassures the princess that she has nothing to worry about.
The two former bullies now
Frustrated with the complex situation, Arianel begins brushing Princess Crystal's hair.
Princess Crystal gazes forward. The purple-haired and brown-haired maids look on with happy, admiring expressions.
Arianel's thoughts drift to the Holy Night Festival, the sun-worshipping empire's only nighttime celebration.
A beautiful stained glass window illustrates the festival's purpose, celebrating the birth of the sun at dawn.
She briefly imagines herself dancing intimately with the emperor at the festival. The fantasy fades as she remembers he has never even called her by her name. Resigned, she decides it's no big deal and resolves to focus on getting her divorce.
Realizing she hasn't prepared for the festival, she asks her attendants if that's okay.
Her maids and Princess Crystal stare back at her in silence.
With an awkward laugh, Arianel changes the subject, asking about the princess's preparations.
The short-haired maid happily reports that everything is ready.
Her two other maids proudly present a lovely new white dress and a box of shoes. Princess Crystal looks down sadly, her new hairstyle not enough to lift her spirits. Arianel asks her maids if she's supposed to show her care for Princess Crystal.
Deciding the offered dress is inadequate, Arianel takes it from the maid. She joyfully presents a much more elaborate dress to a surprised Crystal and maid.
Princess Crystal shyly tugs on Arianel's dress, getting her attention.
Arianel looks down as Princess Crystal stares up at her with a sad expression.
Arianel realizes that despite her assumption, the princess doesn't seem to enjoy dressing up. She sits with Crystal, gently holding her hands and offering a reassuring smile. As a maid tries to explain, Arianel asks the princess to wait for her.
Princess Crystal looks at her somber reflection in the vanity mirror.
Arianel kneels before the princess, tenderly holding her hand.
Looking down, the princess quietly admits that she actually finds it fun.
Arianel's face lights up with a relieved and happy smile.
Crystal explains she enjoys watching herself gradually change, though she is still the same person.
She continues, finding it fun to see herself transform. Arianel connects this joy of change to choosing a dress, asking what makes it different. With a look of determination, Arianel faces the princess as the maids watch.
Crying, Princess Crystal recalls the designer who made her clothes said the meanest thing.
Arianel is shocked to hear about the princess's painful experience.
A purple-haired maid begins to explain what happened when they ordered the dress. In a flashback, a snooty red-haired designer arrives to meet the princess.
The designer callously belittles the princess's clothes, while Arianel internally vows revenge on the designer.
The maids explain that the dress is lackluster due to budget constraints they can't appeal.
The brown-haired maid suggests that perhaps Arianel could ask the emperor for more funds.
Arianel recalls a painful memory from her past life of being shamed and dismissed by a shop clerk. She admits that despite loving fashion, this trauma makes her hate having clothes made for her. The scene shifts back to Crystal quietly brushing her hair at the vanity.
Arianel thoughtfully watches the young princess from a distance.
She clenches her fists, vowing to give Crystal the best dress and the best experience.
Leaning close, Arianel promises to show Crystal she'll never feel that way again. Arianel beams with genuine warmth and determination.
She firmly orders the maids, Clara and Emma, to bring all of the princess's dresses.
Princess Crystal looks up, her red eyes wide with surprise and curiosity.
Overjoyed with her plan, Arianel flashes a cheerful peace sign.
A flashback illustrates how insults and restrictions crushed Crystal's initial joy in dressing up. Princess Crystal looks up at Arianel with a hopeful and curious gaze.
Arianel offers Crystal a drink, who looks up at her with startled eyes. Smiling warmly, Arianel stands beside the quiet princess.
Looking at her reflection, Crystal declares she loves the new hairstyle, and all the others Arianel did.
Overcome with emotion, Arianel feels as if she's been shot through the heart with cuteness.
Princess Crystal takes her hand, asking Arianel to help her choose a dress now. Arianel claps her hands in delight at the princess's request.
She happily invites the ladies-in-waiting to join them in choosing a dress.
The scene transitions to an exterior shot of a grand palace building. A maid leads the red-haired designer through an opulent doorway. The designer complains aloud about being summoned so rudely for a mere princess. She stops in shock, recognizing Arianel and questioning why Her Highness is there. The scene cuts to a throne room where a stern, blonde-haired ruler presides over his court. A close-up reveals the blonde ruler's intense red eyes and serious expression. His courtiers murmur amongst themselves, finding the rumors about his affection for the queen suspicious. A bald courtier notes they can't learn anything about the queen, as she never leaves her palace. The emperor recalls recent insolence as a bald courtier wonders who to ask about the empress's dismissed maid.
Seated on his throne, the blonde emperor asks his court for any reports regarding the empress.
The courtiers whisper among themselves, frustrated that the silent emperor, who usually refuses reports, is now asking for one about the empress, about whom they know nothing.
The emperor clenches his fist, waiting for an answer.
A hand suddenly rises in the court, drawing the emperor's surprised attention.
A black-haired courtier named Conrad raises his hand, much to the shock of the man beside him.
The emperor grants him permission to speak, and a nervous Conrad declares he has something to report about Her Majesty.
Suddenly, Conrad's focus shifts as he gasps, questioning why Your Majesty is present. He stares in disbelief at the woman's elegant dress, wondering about her disguise.
The scene changes to Arianel and Princess Crystal sitting together as Arianel welcomes the arriving designer.
Princess Crystal looks up with wide, nervous red eyes. Arianel smiles warmly, explaining she has prepared everything for the designer's visit.
She graciously invites the reddish-purple-haired designer to take a seat. Overcome with emotion, the designer weeps, declaring the scene marvelous and beautiful. She tearfully praises Princess Crystal's hairstyle and corset, asking who was responsible for the beautiful styling.
Princess Crystal proudly announces that Lady Arianel styled her hair, leaving the designer utterly shocked.
Arianel offers a calm, knowing smile.
A black-haired maid shyly asks if they can get haircuts as well.
Arianel explains that a maid's appearance reflects her mistress's status, a concept the maid seems to find novel.
As Arianel braids the maid's hair, a thought bubble reveals her maids never had the luxury to consider such things before.
A flashback shows a sad Princess Crystal with her two poorly dressed former maids, which made them all appear shabby. The black-haired maid expresses her surprise at how quickly her new hairstyle is finished.
She and the other maids look overjoyed with their beautiful new hairdos.
Holding a comb and scissors, Arianel cheerfully offers to style everyone's hair. Now in a new room, Arianel helps choose beautiful new dresses for all the maids. Later, Princess Crystal and Arianel enjoy tea and cake together.
The designer watches them, her eyes suddenly sparkling with a flash of inspiration.
She excitedly exclaims that she's been struck by a brilliant idea.
With artistic flair, she describes her vision of total coordination and group art, sketching a new design. As Arianel recognizes the designer's top-class talent, a happy Princess Crystal snuggles close to her. The designer diligently sketches her inspired design onto a pad. However, she then stands and respectfully declines the Empress's request. The unexpected refusal leaves Princess Crystal and her maids looking stunned.
Arianel calmly asks the designer to explain her reason for declining.
A stern-faced, red-haired girl with glowing green eyes appears.
The designer explains she was hired by royal officials and is bound to design according to their wishes for the princess.
Ariel realizes that not only are shadowy figures forcing the princess into awful outfits, but this designer knows exactly who they are.
With a brilliant smile, Arianel proposes a simple solution. She will hire the designer directly. The designer is startled by the Empress's direct and clever proposal.
Arianel gives a playful wink while hugging a surprised Princess Crystal.
Overhearing one of her maids hesitantly begin to speak, Arianel turns her attention to them.
She offers them a gentle, encouraging smile.
The two maids look up, startled to have been noticed.
Arianel tells them there's no need to pretend and that she trusts them, recalling the Emperor's wish for allies he could understand. The Emperor's past thoughts echo, stating his preference for known allies in a palace full of enemies.
The two maids are shown with shadowy figures behind them, hinting at their complicated pasts. Brushing aside a painful memory of past judgment, Arianel extends her hand in an open gesture.
Arianel assures the designer that she views her with the same trust and high regard.
Pointing to the sketches, Arianel explains that she has seen both the designer's good and bad sides. She formally asks again, appealing to the designer's professionalism and belief in choosing work based on true merit. Arianel smiles warmly at the stunned, reddish-purple-haired designer. She gently takes the designer's hand, sealing their new partnership. The chapter ends with a determined Princess Crystal looking forward.